All right. I was like, what am I going to call you? Veronica?
That is physically, yes, my name.
That's your name. That's your name.
This is starting off really well.
Yeah. Every time I meet a new person that knows you, they call you something else.
Oh,
And I'm
really?
like, if you're in this community, you're Beyonce. If you're in
Oh.
this community, you're V. If you're in
Mm-hmm.
this community,
Mm-hmm.
you're Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome.
Welcome to my identity crisis on this podcast.
Well, this is where, okay, number one, goal, make you cry. Number
Yes.
two, let's just talk about identity crisis, how it's not just personal. It's
Yeah.
not like it's not always an emotional thing. We have these in our businesses too. You're all about marketing. You are very aware of what's going on in that space. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, let me into the insides. I want to see people's souls. It's all the same shit, just different language, packaged, wrapped very
Yeah.
differently.
Yes. Well, I have a different fetish than you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fetish, speaking of fetish, when I first met you,
Yeah.
I was in not an identity crisis. It was. I just didn't know I was in
Sure.
one. My challenge was I wanted to scale and grow and I wanted to make it rain. Okay. And you, with your rainmaker, I was like, I want a rainmaker. I need to make it rain. Raindrops falling on my head. Dollar bills, y'all. I'm half kidding, but I knew I needed support. And so
Sure.
I enter your world
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a lot about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things that I discovered was number one, when I tell myself, and I say we tell ourselves we're not good at something or we suck
Mm-hmm.
at something, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I was
Totally.
like, I don't like marketing. I love being of service to people, but I don't want to do the marketing thing. I hear this all the time. I'm also not a leader. I don't want to lead a team. I don't want to do all that. And then here I am going, I'm actually a really good leader. I manage a team very well. I love people. Um, and yeah, just being in your worlds catapulted me into my leadership at the next level and also made me realize that I'm actually really fucking good at marketing and I really enjoy it.
Okay, so first things first, that is all true. It's funny because I feel like I sneaky ambush you in my programs.
Ambush
I
me.
do because you come, especially the Rainmaker residency program, like you're coming in and you're like, I don't want to be my own chief marketing officer. I want to just be the chief executive officer. Like that's the whole promise of the program. Like, okay, sweet. We gotta delegate. We gotta relinquish the marketing things to someone else that you trust to run that because it is a revenue generating arm of your business. But the only way that I can have you let go, little control freaks, like let go to someone else is if I also too give you a new thing to gain. Because people are more triggered by the prospect of loss than the aspirational promise of more. Like you'll stress more for $20 lost than $200 gained. That's actually a psychological fact. So, yes, I have these founders that come to me like, I hate marketing or I don't want to do it anymore. Like, that's very atypical type of sentiment coming towards me. And I'm like, I love marketing. Don't talk about my baby like that. But the truth is, as much as you say you want to let go, you actually will not. You will not let go of this identity that you have because one, it's tied to money, and two, it's part of who you are. You're like, I got here this way. And so in order for me to actually physically like release you from that, I have to give you a new identity. And so for you, it was like, hey, you're a visionary. Do you know what that means? Do you know what a visionary KPI is? Like, do you actually understand your greatest role in this dynamic, not just for your Rainmaker, but for your whole company and mission? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do sneaky ambush people.
Yeah, I do that too. Give them what they want, teach them
Yeah.
what they need,
Yeah.
and it all comes down to control, right? We say we
Yeah.
want one thing,
Yeah.
and most of the time that's a lie. But because culturally, it looks so good on the outside, and people are like,
Mhm.
I want that, but everyone's scared, right? So I want to go into identity. You have a new book coming out.
I do.
Um, and I said, I want to talk about identity in general, and you
Mhm.
can just weave in
Mhm.
your angle from a marketing
Sure.
perspective. But if you identify If I say I am, and then whatever I say at the end of that is literally the lens that I'm looking at my life through. So if I identify as a rainmaker, or I identify as a visionary, or I identify as a business owner or a leader or a company owner or
Mm-hmm.
a woman or a wife or a mom,
Mother. Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are my identifying
Mm-hmm.
factors. And what I see is people grab onto an identity,
Mm-hmm.
hanging on for dear life,
Mm-hmm.
and they've outgrown that identity.
Mm-hmm.
They're suffering, they're struggling. It's like, ugh, it's choking them. And they're just crawling. They're like, but I'm doing this for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but does it feel good? Is it in
Mm-hmm.
alignment?
Yeah.
And I know the conversation we're having is about how the world of marketing and business has changed in the last 4 to 5 years. I mean, that is the same with developmental phases of humans and seasons of your life. So, what's your perspective of identity?
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is super valid. It's like I hired a parenting coach and I came to her because, yes, I identify as a mother, but obviously the reason I'm hiring a parenting coach is because I'm like, I'm a bad mom, or, like I'm being shitty, right? Like, so yes, I identify as a mother, but let's add an adjective that's not very kind. So, like, I think identity is multi hyphened. Let's just put it that way. It's not just a singular label maker, stick. Like, this is not how we target people in advertising. So, first of all, people are more complex. I think, too, the source of the identity has changed in the last 4 years, and I'll give you a personal example just to resonate, or just to kind of explain what I'm talking about. So, like, yes, collectively in the last 4 years, we've gone through kind of a cluster storm of craziness, like a global pandemic, a housing crisis, a lockdown, overturned, rights, AI, like, name it, just name it, throw it to the wall. And we've all gone through it together, forced, not on our own time. No, no, forced, traumatic experience,
Mm-hmm.
universal. And so on this backside of this reorientation of life, I think not only are companies experiencing a rebrand, but so are the buyers. The consumers are also going through their era of rebrand. So I'll give you an example. I've always, from birth, have identified as a fit person, or a thin, small, add whatever adjective you want, but I identify as a fit person. I've always been conscious of like what I eat, and I work out and I do activities and sports when I was younger. But if I'm being really honest, pre 2023, the source of that identity was vanity driven. And I've learned through my therapist that vanity is inherited. So, like, thanks, mom, and thanks, grandma. So, like, yes, I identify as a fit human being, but if I'm being real, real truthful, I think the source of that identity is because there's a vanity. There is a vain aspect to me in wanting to look a particular way or be perceived in a particular manner. Then, come October 2023, my 32-year-old sister gets diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer with no genetic mutation. It's literally her body made it. And life stops. Like, I walked into 2024 not knowing if I'd have a sister by the end of 2024. Like, that's how serious it was, because it already had spread to her lymph nodes. Like, we're lucky that she caught it watching TV. Like, literally, it was herself. She didn't have a mammogram at 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so this new source of identity has come about. I still definitely identify as a fit human being, 100%. That has not changed. And I'm almost like proud of that label in a way, that identity label. But now the source of the identity is what I call longevity more than it is a vanity. I don't really care about a size of clothing. What I care about is living to 100 years old and never having my kids watch me go through what my sister just went through, because it was actually horrific. It's like a car crash watching somebody go through aggressive chemo like that and lose everything. And so now the source of my identity is deeper. The meaning is different. And I can feel this part of myself almost fighting vanity at every turn. And so when I eat something, it's not like, well, if I eat this, will it make me chunky or make me gain weight? It's like, well, if I eat this, is it toxic and gives me cancer? Like, even the internal narrative around my identity has changed, just to
Mm-hmm.
give you perspective.
Yeah. So it's like the lens has shifted,
Yes.
right? So how
Yes.
you're seeing everything has
Yeah.
shifted. Your thoughts around it, your
Mm-hmm.
habits, your behaviors
Mm-hmm.
creates a different reality.
But my identity is the same. I'm still a fit person.
but your internal
Mm-hmm.
thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
feelings,
Mm-hmm.
habits, beliefs
And
have
I think
shifted.
from a marketing perspective, that's what's happening too, is that people, yes, on paper identify as a mother, a wife, a woman, name every demographic possible on a piece of paper. Welcome to, the elections of 2024. But I think what people are not realizing, those of you who are in the pursuit of ethically persuading somebody to do something, which is also called marketing, but it could be like, hey, I'm a mother trying to get the PTA to do something for my kid, that you're still in the art of ethical persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that pursuit of getting somebody else to do something, I think we're just still swimming too in the shallow and not understanding the depth of the person we're trying to convince to do something for their gain.
So, talk about your book. When I'm reading your book, Identity Marketing,
Yes.
I don't really know what that means.
Okay. I love how honest you are. Even on your pod. By the way, this is how we talk in real life. like,
100%.
like, bitch, what you talking about?
No, but I'm intrigued by the concept.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
Sure. Okay. So let me define it. Identity marketing is your buyer, your consumer identifies so deeply with your brand that they literally want to be buried in your brand. So what that
That's
means
not where
is,
my brain went. I was
yeah,
like,
I know,
buried.
buried. And the story that I like to share is the story of this man named Billy Stanley from Mechanicsburg, Ohio. He died a couple years ago, and there were like hundreds and hundreds of people that showed up to his funeral. So yes, he was definitely a beloved individual. Former truck driver, world traveler, rodeo rider. Like he was definitely eccentric. But what was so famous about this funeral is that it took 18 years to do, to like put together. He literally met with the funeral director 18 years before he passed, before he ever got sick and passed away. And the reason that it took 18 years and extra grave plots and a custom everything was because he had a very specific vision that he didn't want to just like ride into heaven. He wanted the world to see him do it. So him and his sons built a custom plexiglass coffin, and then he taxidermied his body.
Oh my
So
God.
he is sitting on top of his beloved 1967 Harley Davidson in his full riding leather, helmet, glasses, and there's a picture of him literally being lowered into the grave that was like 3 plots deep so that it could fit this monstrosity of a coffin. So we could literally see him riding into heaven.
Hmm.
And his son said, like, and we know he's still riding today. So his identity, it wasn't just about clearly the Harley Davidson, like it has nothing to do with the bike. It was the fact that he identified as a Harley hog, and he wanted to go to heaven in that identity of who he was, because he deeply identified with what the brand stood for, what it meant about him, and what he aspired to become as this traveler. That's what I mean by identity marketing, which is not the same thing as like brand identity. Brand identity is like your logo, your typography, it's your intentional gift wrapping of your stuff. Like it's my red color, it's my this and that. Identity marketing is how I self-identify, my self-concept, what I call myself, the choices I make that reaffirms the identity that I see myself to be.
What brands are you going to bury
To bury
yourself with?
myself in. It's not going to be Harley, but I can listen. I'm not surprised we haven't seen Taylor Swift Swifty coffins. And I know that the NFL, like think about fans, sports fans, they
Yeah.
definitely like they sing the chant during their weddings, they get buried in their gear. Like this isn't this is a thing that
Mhm.
people are attach themselves to an identity that was not by birth, and we see it all the time, especially in marketing.
I'm laughing because I've actually had clients and community members say, when I die, I want you like to read my eulogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, WTF. WTF. This is the longest marketing strategy ever. This is a long launch.
You've made it when they're being buried in you or they tattoo you on their skin. Think about how many people have tattooed brands or things on their skin. Like it's
Yeah.
a thing. Yeah.
I'm now getting tattoos removed from my body.
Oh,
It is no longer in alignment with my future self, my future identity.
I'm very proud of you then.
Anywho, I digress. We need to come back to the topic.
Okay. Yeah.
I do. So, okay, what does this mean for modern marketing? Right.
Mhm.
So, first of all, people love hanging out in the comfort zone. 2020 comes in, wha bam. few slaps in the face the last few years. What if you have your little crystal ball, because you always
Mm-hmm.
do, what is the vibe that people are stepping into? Who are the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are being very, very successful right now? And maybe
Mm-hmm.
talk about some of like
Mm-hmm.
the smaller people,
Yeah.
brands, everyday people
Mm-hmm.
that are killing it, and
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll tell you where I think we're not going. It's funny, 2020 was like a rainbow year of like, you could sell anything to anyone. Like everybody was just so freaking trusting. A harsh reality come 2024, and the default emotional palette of the buyer of today is distrust.
Yeah.
Like 96% of people who buy something are looking on with intentions to find negative reviews. Like, I don't give a shit about your positive reviews. I want to see what people are saying, like the real stuff, the real grub, you know? So distrust is number one. That sucks for those of us who are like, we're one of the good ones, I promise. Like, ugh, right? Because now you know that they look at you not as an innocent until guilty. They look at you like guilty until proven yourself innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So that has completely changed, just even from the relationship dynamic that you have with somebody that you're trying to court to maybe work with in
I
any
will
capacity.
100% attest to that, not just clients coming in, but also how I personally buy.
Totally.
And I will tell, I want to talk about, I want to circle back to this, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I literally was on Amazon earlier today trying to get like a milk steamer, what frother, and I was like on purpose looking for negative reviews. On purpose. I don't care about your 50,000 positive. I want to literally look for the negative. This is
But if you
yes,
deeply trusted me and you were
sure.
like, what's your favorite frother? And I said this one, you would go buy it because you trust me.
To some extent, yeah, it would definitely be on the list immediately, even if I didn't see it in like a top 10 list somewhere else for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Trust, trust, trust.
So yes, okay. So people are distrusting, but we unfortunately, as companies, as brands, we still have to hit our numbers. Shit, like we still have to hit the end of the quarter. We have to hit the end of the fiscal year, big and small. I don't care if you're listening to this and represent a Fortune 100 company or you're like an intern with zero marketing budget. We still have to hit numbers or show forth effort from our marketing. This we have to justify our seat. And so what ends up happening is when our messaging no longer resonates or is perceived negative, we just pitch slap harder. I mean, real hard. Order now, limited supplies only, last day, final chance, like ugh. Like we literally pitch slap our buyers. And then what ends up happening is even if we can get them over the finish line with all that urgency and scarcity, it really only sets them up for buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm.
They then will debate if they can get a refund. If you don't give them a refund, they will never work with you again, and then most likely tell people that you never gave them a refund, and then now negatively impact your business. So like it's just a lose-lose cycle. So my whole thing, and this is obviously what I'm going to talk about a lot in the book, is like we're not moving in a direction where I'm going to teach you how to do more buy this marketing. No more buy this. The invitation now is to be this.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say that.
And it's not just big brands. It's not just the fame and the stardom of Swifty or the budget of Barbie or the history of Harley. Like it's not just the big ones. Throughout the entire book, I have constant little small and little small medium-sized business examples everywhere that are leveraging identity to invite people to become
Mm-hmm.
and having enormous success. They are disrupting some of the most saturated red ocean, super competitive spaces that you can imagine, whether it's the beverage space or the clothing space or the foreign language space. We have examples across the entire board.
Am I in the book? That's all I'm here for.
That's all you give. That's all you care about.
Did I make
If
the cut?
yeah, well,
If not, this isn't going live.
You didn't scratch my back when we slept over together, so
What? I'm just kidding.
You woke up really early, and you're not quiet.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I bet.
I don't recall.
This is how close we are.
Anywho, I want to go back to the trust.
Yeah.
So in my work, when I started my business,
Yeah.
like I can see the external rocking, and my message has not necessarily shifted, but I've doubled down on who I needed to become in order to survive. And I don't mean survive. Let me rephrase this. Who I needed to become in order to thrive. Okay. So when I was diagnosed in 2013, raising 3 kids. Youngest is a year old. I am in startup in my business. Didn't even know what marketing was or sales or anything. I'm
Mm-hmm.
selling meditation workshops, 6 weeks, getting $500 cash in my pocket, maybe a one-on-one client here or there. I'm just starting to gain momentum with a webinar. Zoom wasn't even a thing back then. People hated online. They're like, can we meet in person? And I'm like, this is so much quicker now. You can't even get people to like be in person. I mean, you can, but it's like a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember back then just being like, I didn't ask myself, who do I need to become? What's my identity? But I remember being so uncomfortable, backed into a corner that
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, evolve or die,
Yeah,
essentially.
fair.
And I don't mean like physically die. I mean, we could get into that conversation, but it's like you need to evolve. Evolve, evolve, evolve. 2020 comes around. Same with business. And I'm like, okay, what are people challenged with? What am I going to double down and talk on? Hey, how to work from home while also now being a homeschooler and a homeschool, like how to be with yourself, right? But it's all the same shit. I'm teaching the same tools and I'm just becoming and role modeling. And now I'm talking about time richness because time has always been my thing, managing your emotions, but it's leadership. I'm like, doesn't matter if you're leading your children or if you're leading your team,
Mm-hmm.
marketing, what do you identify as? Like
Mm-hmm.
your identity is core into leadership. You want to make an impact in the world. You can't say, I want to make an impact in the world, dance a few times, slap that shit up on Instagram, and refuse to talk to anybody else, and then twiddle your thumbs and be like, I don't know why I can't find clients. It's the economy. And I'm like, no, you need to go out there, be seen, be heard, be understood, like really refine your voice. And then going back to trust,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I'm all about, me in sales. I'm like, it is a human connection. And what I've witnessed is people are, I can't even say more scared than ever because they were scared in 2020 and they were
Sure.
scared in other times as well. People have resistance, people live from a place of fear, but I'm noticing that they will circle the pool longer, right? What am
Sales
I
cycle.
the sales cycle is longer. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, in my world, what that means to me, because I observe human behavior, is they just are loathing themselves in suffering. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
all about like, what are you resisting?
Yeah.
Run towards it. And
Yeah.
so, because they don't trust other people, but they've deeply lost trust with
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that connection with yourself, your
Mm-hmm.
identity, blah, 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 is so essential in order to overcoming any challenge,
Mm-hmm.
marketing, life, relationships, health, all the
Mm-hmm.
things.
I want to validate you, and I think you're going to love this story. So I do this thing. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I just like to collect cool people. That's just what I do. And so if I find a badass near me in my, 5 to 10 miles in my radius, I'm like, come to dinner, come to dinner. So we do this like monthly dinner the last Wednesday of every month. And I'm sitting at this dinner last night. It's
I would
literally
not
last
know
night.
this because
What?
you never post it on the internet.
I
And
do.
then I tag you, and everyone's like, I had dinner with her last night. I had
Mm-hmm.
dinner with her last
Mm-hmm.
night.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to be present, Heather.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
So I'm sitting at this table of 8 people, and the woman next to me, and I will not disclose her, she is one of the most badass humans I know. And she just puts you in your place type of individual, which is, I think, my favorite flavor. Clearly, this is why we're friends, because you call me out my shit all the time.
I think I
She's
know who
a,
you're talking about.
no, you don't.
Oh,
You never met her. She's a former physician.
okay.
And she recently retired from being a doctor because she's a badass. And now she's like walking into this new entrepreneurial type of identity. And she's like, I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with myself. Like, it's really rocking her world. And so I'm like, are you working with like a business coach? It seems like you need like a business coach. And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, do you agree that you need one? She's like, yes. I'm like, so why are you working with one? She's like, because I don't want them to hold me accountable. I don't want them to make me make goals. I don't want, like, she literally won't get the thing that she absolutely has a self-awareness level to say, I need this because I'm all effed up. She won't do it because she doesn't want that person to call her out and hold her accountable. Like, isn't that wild? And I was like, man, if Heather was at this table, because there was like 2 or 3 other coaches and they were like salivating.
That would be
But
a pain in the ass client though,
yeah,
because she
no,
does.
no, you would love her. She would literally be your most perfect. You would love her. That's what I'm saying.
When she's
She is an
ready.
ideal person.
When she's ready.
I just thought it was fascinating that she didn't want to work with, she didn't want to, she knew that she needed you, doesn't want to work with you because she doesn't want to be held accountable in the mess.
I think that's okay. First of all,
Wild.
it's like, I mean, that's not wild to me. Everyone says, I know what I need to do. I'm just not doing it. She's taken it one step further of, I don't want to do this because I don't want to be held accountable. I had an exact situation with a client physician, and she said, I stopped listening to your podcast because I didn't want you to kick my ass anymore. And then when I was ready, I circled back and I was all in. And so this is it, like facing your shit, right? Like looking in the mirror and identifying as the type of person that will be willing to do that. So
Totally.
use this language through the lens of business. So I don't want to be held accountable. I don't want to do this. It's the business's fault. It's the economy's fault. What do you say to that person that's doing it from a different perspective?
Well, yeah, and this is where I think majority of marketing will go, is that they're going to emphasize what I call an outcomes-based marketing. So outcomes-based is like, well, but if you sign up with me as your coach, you'll have this and you'll have this and you'll have this and you'll have this. It's like
your dog is loving her life right now.
So
she's going nuts.
It's really funny. Yeah, so it's outcomes-based marketing. Like look at all the things you'll have her achieve by buying my program. And clearly that's not the source of her problem. And that's also not the answer that I would prescribe. It's not so much like shoving down her throat the outcomes of her decision. It's more like the identity of who she gets to become because of her decision.
Yeah.
So like she's clearly struggling with, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? I know what it is to be a physician for the last 30 to 40 years. What does it actually mean to be an entrepreneur in this space where I've never had to sell myself? I've never had to market myself. What do I do with myself? I had calls at 12, but I didn't have calls between 9 and 12. What do I do with myself? I feel lazy sitting there having coffee.
Yeah. We all know what that's like if we went from like employee, like to having control of your time. And you have to learn these resiliency skills.
Yeah.
If you don't, what is the takeaway? Why? Okay. We're going to talk about marketing identity, but like, if I'm reading your book, what do you want me to walk away with when I'm complete? What is your hope and dream?
Okay.
For the reader.
Book, yes. My book is definitely what we call like nonfiction prescriptive. Like it is certainly like my sincerest hope is that you are a badass human being who picks up this book. Like I read a lot of business book and goes, I can do this on my own. Like that would be joyful for me that you read this book. And next thing I know, you have a community and they all call themselves whatever. And there's depth and meaning to what that means to be that. And it becomes its own thing outside of just you. Like that would certainly be like my hopes and dream, whether it's fluency families or the anthill and you're joining the community or what we call the colony. Like there's so many different examples of people doing this at all levels, even solopreneurs that are having wild success.
I just see this as a call to become. Yeah. I'm getting woo-woo here. Okay. I know woo is your favorite.
I'm woo curious.
Woo curious. That would be a good book title. Now my brain just went woo to another thing. But this feels like an awakening, like a calling. Sure. You're either going to sink or swim. If you are not willing to do the deep inner emotional work within yourself and or your business, like your back is against the wall. You evolve or die. You have no option. So this is what I typically hear and see, and I'm sure you hear it a lot too, is I just need a course. I just need to create a course. Like people are still on first it was like .com. Like if I don't have a website, I am not legit. We've kind of moved on from that. Some people still hang on to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the 90s. We need to get over that. It's 2024. Like, yeah, sure, you can have a website, but your website's not your end all be all. People are checking you out in so many other areas. It's
Totally.
relationships, blah, blah, blah. But all these people being like, I need somebody to help me create a course. And I'm like, I can't find you online. You have not made $1 yet. There are so many
I know.
there's so many skills that you need to acquire. Creating a course is like saying, I want to create art. And that is totally fine. But I'm curious your perspective because they're still being taught and sold this lie, create a course, you'll become a bajillionaire. Do it.
Yeah.
Say it, please.
And what's interesting about
Save
that
people.
is that it started off as course fatigue, where people were like, oh, I'm getting really tired of all these courses and master classes. And now it's like course shame because we all bought them and no one finished them. So now it's even more, it's worsened the relationship. I really struggle with this course thing because if you're not comfortable enough to deliver or render a service one to one, you have no business putting anything on camera that
Say it again.
many
Say it
would
again.
consume. No, it's true. Like if you literally can't provide a transformation in the most intimate proximity container, you have no business putting this in a scalable container like a course.
Yeah.
I think courses are a good idea when you've graduated from one-on-one mastery, but if you still haven't, in repetition, provided a transformation in a one-on-one way, I don't think anybody ethically has a responsibility to put it in a scalable container like that. I think that's unethical, to be honest.
Yeah. And I always tell people to implement it when you want to buy back your time and energy and you're becoming resentful and you're like,
Sure.
I'm not going to repeat myself again and
Sure.
again. And I'm like, yeah, great. Scale, grow, let it
Sure.
organically evolve.
Yeah.
But when you go from like zero to course,
I agree.
You're going to create it. Then you got to figure out how to sell it and market it. And then you're going to have to redo it because you're going to realize nobody wanted that.
Well, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. How do you know it's actually going to produce a result if you haven't been able to produce it not on camera?
Yeah.
Like that's what it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
2 cents.
So, okay. I'm a business owner. I'm listening to you. Yeah. Like I'm pretending I'm somebody else.
Then you want to be my best friend like what happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm seasoned. I know change needs to happen. I'm buying your book, Identity Marketing, and I'm like, I'm a dentist. I'm a doctor. I'm a brick and mortar. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a holistic hormone specialist. I am a dog trainer. How is this identity marketing going to help me?
Okay. I'm going to give you an example because I recently stayed at a hotel in downtown Denver in the Dairy District. It's called the Dairy Block in the Lodo District is, I think, if I'm getting that correct. I've been at many freaking hotels. I speak a lot and I'm on the road and that's just part of what I do and I love it. But I'm checking into this hotel and then on the plaque on the counter of the front desk, it's like, hey Mavens, here's your Maven exclusive. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And so then I go upstairs to the room again. Here's, as a Maven, you get this. And I'm like, again, what the hell is a Maven? Like they keep calling me this thing. So then I find this video and they set all these random people on a couch. Like, what does a Maven mean? What does a Maven mean? Everyone's like, I don't know. It's a bird. What the hell is a bird? Like, everyone's guessing. And then the general manager of the hotel sits down and he goes, a Maven is somebody who's an expert in an area of passion. So we have coffee Mavens, we have retail Mavens, we have tech Mavens, we have leadership Mavens, because the way the hotel is structured, it's on top of a co-working space and kind of this open marketplace and everything. And so when they reflected that back to the people who were like, I don't know what the hell it is, everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm a Maven. Like it was like with joy and glee that they're like, yeah, I'm a coffee Maven. I'm a this Maven. And I pose the question, like, if a hotel is offering an identity where the average guest is only staying 2 to 3 nights, but you are in the business of having long-term relationships, why are you too not offering an identity for people who you wish to have a long-term meaningful relationship and not just a transactional relationship?
Yeah. I listen to Armchair Experts, which is a podcast.
Yeah.
They have the Armcharies, and I just thought about this.
And the Daddy Gang, right? So Call Her Daddy, they call themselves the Daddy Gang. And New Heights podcast with Jason and Travis Kelsey, they're the 92%ers. It think about an athlete, the Patrick Mahomes, they call themselves Mahomies, and Tom
Okay, what
Brady,
are
the
my
Brady
people? I
Bunch.
need to come up.
I
I need to my emotionally uncomfortablies.
mhm, mhm. I'm just saying, well, if you read the book, you can do it. Like I'd walk you through a
Feelers.
4-step process so you can do it yourself.
Ooh.
Just
Mm,
saying.
mm. All right, Miss V.
Love you.
I love your vitamins, your vitamin V.
I love you so much.
Beyonce, you V Maven, you.
Stop it.
And where can people get your book? Where
Oh
can
my
they find
gosh.
you? Where can they lean into this?
Oh,
Yeah,
well, the cool thing is there's nobody else named Veronica Romney. So just go to veronicaromney.com and you'll be
from
fine.
the entire billions of people on this
I'm
planet.
pretty sure I'm the only one. That's how special I
That's
am.
when you know you've embodied your identity.
That's right. V out.
And when is your book officially out into the world?
Oh, January 2025, right at the end of the month.
And where can we get it?
Again, easy peasy. Just go to veronicaromney.com. Everything will be there.
Okay.
Everything.
And where are you on Instagram? Because they're going to be tagging you,
Ooh.
and
By the way,
they're going to be slipping into your DMs.
Okay, I give full invitation and permission. Words of affirmation are my love language. If you've enjoyed our conversation and banter and flirting, please DM me at vromney on Instagram. That's my platform of choice, and I love it. I love hearing from people who got something out of our conversation.
Amazing. Amazing. That's your love language. You're
It
easy to
is.
please. You're
Yeah.
easy to please. I just chat GPT things to you and I just copy paste to put it in Boxer. And you're like, oh my God, that was so heartfelt.
Lies. All lies.
I know.
I can tell it to you.
I know. All right. Love you. Love you.
Love ya.